Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I want to talk to you about Donald Trump's threat to the BRICS. As you all are aware, that Donald Trump has sent out a Truth Social post. Let me read it to you. It's very interesting, and this is what he says. This was on the 6th, on the first day of the BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil, and this is what Donald Trump sent as his message to that grouping. Any country aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariff. There will be no exceptions to this policy. Thank you for your attention to this matter. It is really, really fascinating. The Chinese immediately responded, and so did Lula, the president of BRICS, of Brazil, and also who host the presidency of BRICS this year. So it's very clear that that their response was not as hostile. I mean, they were critical of Donald Trump for sending such a strong message, but they also said that, look, BRICS is not about being anti anybody. It is just, we poor countries have come together. We are trying to help each other. We are trying to do good things. And so we are not really a threat to any country. We are not an alignment against any country. So basically, both China and Lula's messages to the U.S. was like saying this was unnecessary. But what was interesting to me was that if you read the statement, the BRICS people, they went very soft when they criticized attacks on Iran. They did not mention the United States. They did not mention Israel at all. They did mention Israel in the context of Gaza. And they separated that with the U.S., but they did not criticize the U.S. They did not criticize Donald Trump. They did bring up the issue of tariffs and said that tariffs are being imposed unilaterally, which is kind of illegal, really, because they violate the rules and norms of the World Trade Organization. And so whatever trade negotiations should be made or renegotiations that Donald Trump wants to have, that should be under the auspices of the World Trade Organization. And so they were, this is the oldest complaint that China and Russia have had. And to some extent, even India does, that the U.S. constantly imposes secondary sanctions and uses sanctions unilaterally, for example, against Iran and then against Russia. So these are not sanctions which have gone through a multilateral process, whether at the United Nations or through the World Trade Organization. So in many ways, this is just illegal from international. So that's the point they were trying to make in the BRICS statement. But clearly, they were being very careful in the statement. They did not want to show up on the radar of Donald Trump. They did not want to provoke him, and they were very quiet. Plus, the absence of Xi Jinping and Putin from the BRICS summit itself said that BRICS summit has gone soft. And it did not deserve much attention in the West, but Donald Trump on 6th morning itself told them what is what. And I find that fascinating because when you look at all the discussions about BRICS, it is not presented as a benign institution of poor countries getting together to develop themselves. The two of the top four economies are in BRICS at the moment, India and China. So these are not exactly poor countries. But if you look at all the discussions that are going on, BRICS is seen clearly as an alternative to G7. And G7 is a Western economic alliance. It is like NATO. NATO is a military alliance between transatlantic states, now primarily targeted towards Russia. But G7 has increasingly become a geo-economic partnership of Western liberal democracies. They do invite everybody. They invited Mexico and India and Saudi Arabia, etc. to that. But the point is that these are liberal economies. They are Western in nature, and they are a geo-economic corollary to the geopolitical NATO. They are smaller, but nevertheless, not all European countries are part of it. But still, lots of people see that BRICS is the alternative. BRICS has tried to present itself as an alternative to the Western-led global order. And then suddenly, when Donald Trump takes them seriously, they are chicken out, literally. BRICS is chickening out, and you can see the difference. I mean, the enthusiasm with which the G7 leaders met in Canada just last month, and Donald Trump, in spite of his huge, busy global agenda at home, and the fact that he doesn't like European countries anymore, still went to G7, and then also attended the NATO summit, and gave his blessing and commitment to Article 5 at the NATO summit just 2 weeks ago. So you can see that Donald Trump, who's seen as so anti-multilateral institutions, so anti-allies. I mean, he just threatened to impose 20%, 25% tax on South Korea and Japan, who are both treaty partners of the U.S. In Asia and very important pillars of the United States Indo-Pacific strategy. But nevertheless, his commitment to NATO and his commitment to G7 is still far more than the commitment that Putin and Xi Jinping have shown to BRICS. Well, you could make an excuse that Putin can't go there because he's wanted criminal. But look, Netanyahu is in White House today. He's also wanted by ICC. The U.S. seems to have no problem. So why does BRICS suddenly have a problem in not allowing one of their founders? They could have rejected ICC's statement, or they should not have hosted it with Brazil. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Next year, BRICS is going to be in India, and India is going to host the Quad, and Donald Trump is going to come there in September. And so by October, I think they will be having some BRICS summits, I think the foreign ministers meeting, etc. So what's going to happen if the BRICS summit is hosted in India with the same fanfare that India hosted G20? They are definitely going to attract the ire of Donald Trump, who might make similar pronouncement. Now, it's a different thing that he may not even act upon it, but he's definitely going to at least tweet something, and who knows, even implement those things. So there's so much of unpredictability about policy and proclamations in this administration. But India has basically shown that it's willing to literally jump every time Donald Trump says jump. So when Donald Trump threatened to impose 100% tariffs on BRIC countries if they pursue de-dollarization, both Dr. Jaishankar and Modi immediately abandoned the whole talk. So you don't hear anything about de-dollarization from India anymore since Donald Trump became president for the second time. But before that, just Google de-dollarization Modi, de-dollarization Jaishankar, and you can see them constantly talking about how they're going to replace the dollar as a global currency. This is a multipolar world, blah, blah, blah. We are a major economy. We are a great power, etc. Well, nobody really trades in the rupee at the moment. 60% of all trade is done. Actually, it depends on where you're looking. In some places like Latin America, 97% of the trade is done in dollars. But as a reserve currency, dollar is about 60%, and 20 plus percent is euro. And the rest is yuan, Japanese currency, etc. Indian currency does not show up as a reserve currency either. Even in transactions, most of the transactions are happening only with Russia, because Russia is in desperate need to sell oil, that some sales have been made in rupees, but a lot have also been made in yuan, the Chinese currency, and the UAE's currency too. But we will see what happens with the Indian presidency of BRICS. Will it become very soft and lukewarm and completely try its best not to challenge the US on anything, or will it become, like, oh, we are the Vishwa Gurus, we are a major power, and will India assert itself as leader of BRICS? This is a chance. I thought that Narendra Modi had a great chance to shine at the BRICS summit, but he took backseat to Lula. It was Lula who led the charge against Israel and all the statements that came. It was his speech in which he accused Israel of committing a genocide in Gaza. So it was Lula who set the moral agenda for BRICS in this summit. But naturally, so he's the president. But in the absence of Xi Jinping and Putin, Modi had a chance to show that he's the leader of the global South, and he failed to do that. But let me also ask you this question, that just by sending one tweet, and the immediate response from BRIC nations was, no, 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 we are not challenging you, etc., suggests to me that the BRICS are still quite frightened and afraid of the United States. And let me show you some facts, but I also want to ask one particular question about what Trump really meant. So, in his Truth Social post, Trump says any country aligning themselves with anti American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariff. There will be no exceptions to this policy. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, who against whom is he going to impose 10% additional tariff? So this is more than the reciprocal ones, which are being basically finalized. The letters are about to go by Friday. And of course, as you know, the deadline has moved from September 9th to August 1st. But does it mean that this 10% tariff will be also on the BRICS countries who are already members, 11 countries who are members of BRICS? Or this 10% tariff will be on new countries which are now aligning themselves with BRICS. So countries like Malaysia and others who Belarus who want to become members of BRICS and are not fully yet members. So I know I'm trying to be read too much in this tweet here, but so for example, if he negotiates a deal with India now, like the negotiations are on, if there are no negotiations, there will be 26% tariffs on India. So if there are negotiations, it will be somewhere between 10, which is the minimum that he says he wants to impose on all countries. So it will be anywhere between 10 and 26%. So let's say they agree for 15% tariffs for India. And then will he add 10% because India is part of BRICS? That's the question that is not very clear. And I hope that, see, that's the problem with Donald Trump because his policy pronouncement come like this. And this is not a fully developed policy. So we really don't know what he means, leaves other countries speculating about it. So, for example, at the moment, the Chinese agreement that was made was at 55%. So is this going to become 65% for BRICS, or is it going to be on other countries which want to become members of BRICS, like Pakistan, for example, wants to become a member of BRICS? So if Pakistan applies for membership, will then Donald Trump increase the tariffs, whatever he's charging Pakistan, by 10%? So that's one thing that was not clear to me. But I do want to show you a couple of data points before I end this discussion about BRICS. Number one, so this first slide that you see is the top 10 economies in 2025. These are nominal economy, GDP measured in just dollars, nominally, no adjustments for anything. So the United States is the number one economy with $30 trillion, China number two, Germany, India, Japan. You all know this now, UK, France, Italy, Canada, Brazil. So if you look at the top 10, you see China, India, and Brazil. So there are three BRIC countries, and then the rest of them are all G7 countries. So Canada, Italy, France, UK, Japan, Germany. So basically G7 plus China, India, Brazil. Three countries which are founding members of BRICS are in the top 10 economies today in 2025. But if you look at the same top 10 economies in 2025 and make an adjustment for, shall we say, purchasing power parity, then the ranking changes significantly. And so the ranking is number one is China at 39 or $40 trillion. Number two is obviously the US at $30 trillion. India becomes number three, jumps ahead of Germany at $17 trillion once adjusted. Number four is Russia, Japan, Germany, Indonesia, Brazil, France, UK. These are the top 10. But once you adjust for purchasing power, you see that number one, number three, and then number four. So in the top four economies, three are BRICS. And in the top 10, five are BRICS. So only US, Japan, France, Germany, and UK, only five. So the balance of power is kind of restored slightly in the favor of BRIC countries, because of the top four, three are BRIC countries. Of the top 10, it's five and five. Five from G7 and five from BRICS. So this should tell you that, oh my God, BRICS is quite a powerful bloc. Let me show you some military power capabilities so you will see. So, if you look at the world's most powerful countries, this is the World Firepower Index for 2025, and they have a criteria by which they measure power. And so, according to them, and this is the national comprehensive power, military power, economic power, everything combined. So, how powerful a country is. So, number one is the US, obviously, and number two is Russia, military power, and then China, and then India. And again, so if you look at military power capabilities, in the top four, you have three BRICS and one G7, US and three BRICS. And then if you look at the top 10, you have one, two, three. Of the top five, there are three Asian countries. In the top 10, you have obviously Russia, China, India, and then Turkey, which is applying for BRICS. So maybe they'll get a 10% extra. And Brazil is at number 11. So let's say it's in number 10. So roughly you can see that once again, in the top 12, if you look at Indonesia is also there. So the BRICS are more or less there, half and half, with G7 countries in the top 12 countries. But in the top four, again, in like the top four economies adjusted for purchasing power parity and the power index, Russia, China, and India are in the top four in the. So the BRICS is so powerful. Then why is it chickening out every time Donald Trump sends out a tweet? It's like they jump up from their bed and say, "No, no, 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 sorry, sir, we didn't mean that. Please forgive us," and so on and so forth. So apologetic. The statement issued by the Chinese government, and even Lula's was. I mean, he was a bit more belligerent than the Chinese, but still very reconciliatory. And the statement itself had nothing to say about Trump or the United States, even though they did criticize the unilateral use of tariffs as an illegal ploy. They want the world to follow the rules and laws as propounded by the World Trade Organization. So I don't know what to make of these power indexes. I mean, should we take this power indexes seriously? That if you look at the purchasing power parity, the top four countries, three are BRICS, India, China, and Russia. And if you look at the military power index, the top four, there are again three, Russia, India, China are in the top four military powers. And they're all in a group. So why can't they all stand up to the United States? The reason for that is that these countries are not united. India would rather stand with the US than with China. So why is it in BRICS? So basically what you see is an alignment between a kind of alignment between India and US, which is not formalized, and another not formalized alliance between Russia and China. So we have this very peculiar situation, which makes BRICS a weaker country. I think BRICS would be stronger without India because they will be more cohesive, and I think their language will be more stronger. And because they are more coherent, more united, and with much more stronger positions, I think the Western Bloc will be less eager to push them. Plus, I can tell you this, that not all G7 countries are with Donald Trump on this. France has been trying for the last 2 months to really move forward and forge alliances with Asian countries. Macron visited Indonesia. Macron, has good relations with India. We saw UK come up with a free trade agreement with India. So the Europeans are realizing, like Canada, that somehow they may have to live in a post-America world. So Asia has much more bargaining power, and so do the BRICS. But unfortunately, this particular Rio, shall we say, summit of BRICS, in my opinion, was an utter failure, except for the strong 4 points statements that they made about Gaza. But other than that, I think it was a very weak summit. They did not impress anybody. And then they chickened out when Donald Trump challenged them. So anyway, I hope that you found this brief analysis of BRICS useful, thought-provoking, and interesting. So please subscribe to Conversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with your socio-political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan. Take care. Bye.